Welcome to another edition of our Fearless Football Forecast. There's only two of us this week, Jim. Tony's actually doing his job. He's out covering a game. He's working hard. So we're in here grinding away, making this video. But I was saying before the show, Pitt County teams went 5-1 last week. Plenty of hot teams, momentum, off the field excitement, on the field excitement. There's a lot going on in Pitt County football right now.
You know, and we're dealing with the stretch run of the season too. Just a handful of weeks left, and this is the time where you really want to be playing well.
Yep.
And some of our local teams seem to be clicking at the right time.
Definitely, definitely. All right, we'll start it off. I'll take the first game here. A local game. Farmville Central's at North Pitt. Two rivals, same conference. And we have to mention the win last week by the Jaguars.
Yes.
Snap a 16-game losing streak. We kept picking against them, and they got Malik Foskey had a huge game. They win. But also, North Pitt goes to Southwest Edgecombe, gets a big win. They've won 3 in a row. I mean, both of these teams, as weird as it sounds, are playing really well going in this game. My pick in that game, I'd love to pick Farmville, just because, man, I love what they did last week. But North Pitt's hot as well, so I'm going with the Panthers. And I think it'd be a close game, though. Hopefully a good game.
Malik Foskey, when he's playing, that's a whole different football team. We've
Definitely.
talked about it all season long. He really makes Farmville Central's offense go. But I think I got to pick North Pitt in this game as well, just because they've been playing so well all season.
Yeah.
5-3, but the losses are to a couple of three pretty tough teams, and I just think right now North Pitt's clicking.
Yep.
That was an impressive win to go on the road and get that one. But I agree with you. It'll be a close game. I think North Pitt pulls it out.
Definitely. Panthers have been consistent all year, and Farmville obviously hasn't, even though they're coming off one big win. Next game here, Jim, D.H. Conley's at Washington.
Yeah, there's a lot of intrigue around this one.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of talk of Malik Gorham from Conley, who's been ruled ineligible, so he didn't play last week. Looks like he won't be playing the rest of the season. So suddenly Conley loses kind of a cog of their offense. But what they've been able to do all season is hand the ball off to several different guys. Walker Cummings, Andrews, Pascal. They got 3 or 4 guys who can seem to carry the ball.
Yep.
And just keep that offense going.
Yep. All right, who's your pick in that
Well,
one?
they're playing Washington. I think this is one of those things where, right now each win could be very important for Conley because they don't know what their penalty is going to be, or if any, from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association because of this situation. And if suddenly they end up being 1-7, you're going to need all those wins you can get to get into the playoffs.
Definitely.
And Washington's right there in the middle of the pack, 2-2 in the Coastal. But I still think Conley's got more than enough offense and more than enough weapons to pull out a win on the road.
I'm going to go with Conley as well. You mentioned it. Jonathan Schrock, who basically we hadn't heard of until last week. There's no Gorham. He scores 3 touchdowns. I think they have enough to win. I mean, I'm interested to see how this whole thing plays out, how they respond. I mean, it's tough to deal with a situation where you lose one of your best players. How do the Vikings respond? I don't know. I guess we'll see Friday. But this is a decent Washington team, so I think they struggle maybe early, but they end up, kind of like last week, end up winning at the end. Next game here, J.H. Rose, speaking of hot teams, J.H. Rose is surprisingly 2-0 in the Mid-Eastern Conference. Travels to Hoggard, and I mentioned before the show, this is the final scheduled trip for Rose going to Wilmington in this conference. But Hoggard is 6-1. They've only lost one game, which was last week to Laney, a team that Rose beat. In a wild game, 47-44. So both are kind of, I think they can both score a lot of points. I think we're going to see a lot of points in Wilmington. And I think Rose has some motivation to get a win. I don't know if they can or not. But my pick for that one, I'm going to go with Hoggard. I think Hoggard is, I said Laney, they've lost to New Bern last week. Rose beat Laney. Sorry about that. But Hoggard's coming off New Bern loss. As we've said before, when you're playing New Bern, you come after that game. New Bern's a great team, a talented team. I think they have enough in Wilmington to hold off Rose and kind of stop Rose's momentum. But I think that can be a really good game and a close game, but I'll go with Hoggard.
It's kind of tough to judge that game by who they played and how they played against them. Both lost pretty big to New Bern. Both just beat Laney by a few points.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to look at similar opponents and kind of get a feel for this game. I think I'm going to take Hoggard in this game just because Rose is making that long road trip. And in that Laney game, they had to score points in a lot of non-traditional ways with the kick returns, block punt return, interception return. While that's signs of a good special teams and an active defense, you can't always count on those points. So I think this is probably the toughest game this week to pick, but I think I'm going to take Hoggard close in this one.
That's a good point about the weird points. That's definitely not something that happens every week. So, all right, next game here, Jim. Aiden Grifton and travels to North Duplin.
And this may be Aiden Grifton's first test in conference because, I saw them just destroy a Spring Creek team that looked like a middle school squad last week.
Yeah.
They ran the continuous clock. It started midway in the first quarter. It was so bad. Aiden Grifton could have scored 125 points in that game if they wanted to.
Yeah.
You got North Duplin teams coming at 5-2. You kind of wonder, though, what you get from games like that. While you may develop some depth with Aiden Grifton might develop some depth with Spring Creek game because a lot of kids get to play. If you're not challenged, then all of a sudden you're going on the road and playing a North Duplin team that's a much higher quality.
Yeah.
You got to wonder how you're going to respond to that.
Yeah, I agree. Good point. You gonna pick the Chargers there?
Yeah, I got to. I've seen them play a couple times this year. I just really think they're really good. They're a really good 1A squad. I think they may be a little underrated. They're getting things figured out now.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm a little concerned coming off a game like that Spring Creek game because it was just no competition.
Yeah.
But I think this will get them geared up for the last couple weeks of the season.
I agree. I think this is a true test to see, how good can Aiden Grifton win by 30 or 40. Can they lose? Do they win by a touchdown? I think they win pretty convincingly. Like you said, I'm really starting to believe it's Aiden Grifton team. I think they go down there and get a big win. Last game here, a winless White Oak team travels to South Central, which although South Central has 2 wins, they're on a little bit of a skid as well. I think they've lost 3 in a row. So this is obviously a good opportunity for the Falcons to get a win, get back on track. I think they need it just from a morale standpoint. Like we touched on with Farmville, when you only win 1 game, 2 games, you really need it to kind of finish the year strong. I don't know what their the postseason chances are, but I mean they obviously need wins to pile up at this point. As far as my pick in that game, I'm going with the Falcons. I think White Oaks really struggled offensively. I have here they've only scored 35 points all year. That's not a good sign for your offense. No. South Central is not exactly a juggernaut on offense, but I think they have too much for a surely struggling White Oak team. What about you?
Who did they play the week before they lost to Havelock? They lost that heartbreaker.
That's right.
Late, and then they had to go on the road and play a tough Havelock team.
Wes Craven, I think was the name.
And so I think they're itching to get a win. South Central's coming home. I think they win. I think they win big. I just don't think White Oak can score any points against them. They may score a touchdown or 2, but that would be a huge offensive output for White Oak this season. I think South Central's just hungry for a win right now. They can't wait to get home, get kind of that bitter taste out of their mouth and come back and get a big win from their home crowd. Yeah,
they've had some tough losses. Yeah. This is a perfect opponent to kind of get things rolling back again. So there's our preview and our picks. Some good games out there this Friday for sure, and some Pitt County teams that are playing really well. So grab the paper and checkreflector.com, and we'll see you again next week.